Good evening, brothers and sisters. Our leader, Kuya Randy, Kuya Herwin. Good evening po, and everyone. Umpisa na po tayo. Okay, sandali. I have to open my camera. Yeah. Hello. Wait a minute. So, for the time being, I will be your host. For us to get started formally with our session, I would like to request my partner to kindly share screen for our Chunilgok anthem. Jing, palihog, Jing.
비만의 새 소식
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Once again, good evening and welcome to our ninth session of this online Divine Principle lecture. So to start with our session, I would like to request um, Ate Monina to kindly lead the prayer. Okay, brothers and sisters, please join me in my prayer. Sarang Hashinon Hanal Pamanim, Chunjin Champomanim Kamsahamida, Sarang Hamida, most precious, loving Heavenly Parents, victorious true parents of heaven, earth, and all humankind. Once again, Father in heaven, we're so much blessed and grateful, Heavenly Parents, for this day that you've given to us, Heavenly Parents, for another wonderful day, Heavenly Parents, night that we could be able to really continue, especially, Father, our divine principle worship. My parents, this is our ninth day, Heavenly Parents. Hope and pray, fathers, that you could be able to guide and give strength to my parents, so our lecturers, Heavenly Parents, who could be able to really share his heart in my parents, the heart that we could be able to truly understand him, even parent deeply the divine principle, Father, especially our true brothers, teaching for us in my parents that we could be able to really apply this in our daily lives in my parents. Father in heaven, hope and pray that you could be able to use us as your mouthpiece in my parents, that we could be able to really share this in my parents to our brothers and sisters who don't know yet about the divine principle. Father in heaven, we're so much um, full of gratitude in my parents. Every time in my parents, we heard about your words and inspiration of my parents day by day. Thank you so much for everything as we humbly and offer this prayer in behalf of our leaders, elders, brothers, and sisters. In your parents' name, Aju. Aju, thank you, Ate Munina, for that artistic prayer. Now, I'd like to again request Ate Munina before we go through the lecture proper and before we have to have some review. I would like to get everybody be reminded of our um, what is this lecture procedures. I mean procedures ba? Reminders of the things that we should, the do's and the don'ts that we have here in our session. So, Ate Modest, kindly share the screen po. Thank you po. And, yeah. For us to get reminded of what we are supposed to do. Most especially at this moment. Although it's our ninth day, no? But we don't want to stop reminding everyone of this. So our regulations that we have to follow. So basically, everybody, brothers and sisters and participants, including us leaders and lecturers, it is our guidelines. I would like to remind all of us to first be always on time, and I think everybody has been in okay on time, and then I'm so grateful to all of you that you had been trying to we are all are trying to cope with this because time is very very important. And another thing that we have to remember, we have to mute ourselves while our speakers, our lecturers are having the lectures. Yeah, don't be late, sabi ni Ate Manins. Then, yeah, kindly mute yourselves during lecture time. So, this sign here, the microphone thing, it has to be muted. And then the third is kindly turn on our videos so we can really see each other. Actually, I can miss everyone. Everyone wants to say everyone, right? Because we're family. So it is our way of connecting to each other and knowing how is everyone doing. And number, yeah, kindly turn on your video. And number four, please rename yourself with your complete name. Like, for example, myself, Sylvia Olmulio de Apera, you can have had your region for the attendance and for our leaders to be able to identify, because from time to time, our leaders will be looking into our or reviewing our recorded session. So they too can have the opportunity to evaluate each and every participants. Since everyone, all participants are matching candidates. Okay, so this is one way of them evaluating our attitude and our attendance towards this session. If we were really serious enough and really considering it like a condition. So, yeah, number five, there will be oral and written reflection as well as questions. So kindly feel free to chat, put in the chat box whatever confusion or questions you have in mind, and feel free to write your reflection also. At the same time, when we're asked to speak for orally for our reflection, feel at home. Like, yeah, we're family, so feel we have to be of ourselves, be natural. Okay. So yeah, I think that's all that would make us very minded of and keep us be posted all the time with our session. So for now, before introducing to you our lecturer, it is but our wait a minute ha. Okay. Sige. So I would like to have a volunteer to hear a volunteer from among the participants who could have a recap on our previous lectures. So yeah, I would like to see some voluntary spirits in here, because if you cannot volunteer, maybe we have to volunteer you for a recap. Apa. So yeah, is
Naka-mute po.
I would like to ask Ate Realida uh, to pick as to whoever she likes to do the recap for today. Ate Realida, are you there? Ate Realida daw is naka-hotspot lang daw siya, okay? So maybe I wanted to... see. Kuya Herwin, who do you want to give recap po? Can kindly pick up po, Kuya. Thank you, Kuya Herwin.
Mary J.
Okay, Mary J, you are being called for to have a recap for our previous lecture. Let's welcome, brothers and sisters, Mary J with a big virtual applause.
Good evening po, brothers and sisters and leaders po. Our lecture last session po is about the resurrection po. It's about to come back to life po. Not physically to come back to life, not physically our body, but it's our spirit from the dominion of Satan to become to God's dominion. Come back to God's dominion. That's all po. Thank you.
Thank you, Ate Marie J, for that recap. So I would like to get one more who could recall what is what has been the lecture about, and anything have in mind that we'll be discussing today, this evening. So, sino ba ang may voluntary spirit dyan? Or iba-volunteer natin? Magbo-volunteer po ba tayo? I would like to wait. Maybe I would like to ask who else? Yeah, someone had personally messaged me that the one who is going to do the recap for tonight, and as well as give us somehow an expectation as to what is our lecture for for this evening. I would like to call on Miss Myong Mayo. Myong Grace Mayo, please. Let's, brothers and sisters, let's welcome Myong Grace Mayo with a big round virtual applause.
Yes, good evening, leaders, brothers and sisters. um, recap, ate, no? Recap and expectation. So, is the last lecture we had, it's about chapter 5, resurrection. So, what ate Mary J said, yun nga, resurrection, it doesn't mean that we will come back into life through physically, but also spiritually. And also, it's also about the growth, and then how our ancestors really continue and try to cooperate to and so that like uh since um to go back to God's dominion, and as we need to continue our life of faith to God. So yun. So our next lecture, it's chapter 6, predestination. So it is about plan of God, or how we will know the plan of God. That so yun. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Wow, amazing, Grace. Thank you very much, Miyong, for that beautiful reflection. I mean, recap and expectations that have, yeah, expectations. So, yeah, brothers and sisters, we did talk about resurrection last time, which of course is like our participants had said, has something to do not just being alive physically, but yeah, spiritually as well. And yeah, right. Tonight we will be talking about predestination, how really uh, God's will, God has predestined His will to be realized. So, without further ado, tonight I would like to introduce to you our lecturer. She is blessed with Japanese, and yeah, she is currently working in the national headquarters as one of the staff. She's really very hardworking, brothers and sisters. She is kind of not very small, maybe petite, but uh, not terrible. But really, God can count on, I should say. Um, I don't. Okay, so she is one of the lecturers, and yeah, practicing now here with you, and learning along with everyone. So, brothers and sisters, leaders, our dear participants, please help me welcome with a big round virtual applause our lecturer for tonight, Miss Jinky. Miss Jinky. Oh my God, I'm sorry, Jinx.
Good evening po to everyone. I think okay lang po bang i-off ko na lang po yung camera kasi I'm having a problem po in my camera. On and off, baka ma-distract lang din po sila. So, yeah, I will share. Wait na. Ayaw mag-move. I cannot see. Wait lang po. Hindi ko makita. Paano mo tatanggalin? Nakikita, di ba?
Ang alin dahil, nakikita namin to pero hindi naka...
Can see po.
hindi po small po. Hindi naka-slideshow.
Ay, yan. Okay na po ba? Can see. All right. Good evening to our lecturers, to our dear brothers and sisters who are participating of our 21 days Divine Principle series, which is we are in the 9th day of our Divine Principle. Yes, good evening once again. As last week, we study about the resurrection as Tita Sylvia said. Now our topic is chapter 6 about predestination. Yeah, let us proceed. Chapter 6, Predestination. Theological controversy over predestination has caused great confusion in the religious lives of many people. Of course, as we are talking about predestination, this is one of the controversial actually, in terms of, and also we're talking about in a Christian, also in in the Bible. We find many passages which are often interpreted to mean that everything is individual's life comes to pass exactly as predestined by God. Yeah, when we are looking here as the Bible verses, actually it's talking about affirmed predestination and defeat predestination, which is in Roman chapter 8 29 verse 30, it said, those whom he predestined, he also called, and those whom he called, he also justified, and those whom he justified, he also glorified. Yeah, when we also talk about in Roman chapter 9, those who knows about the Bible verses, and it says also that I will have mercy on whom I have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I have compassion. So it depends not upon will and exertion, but upon God's mercy. And also in the other side, it is in Matthew chapter 7, verse 7. Ask and it will be given you, and seek and you will be found, and knock and it will be open to you. Okay, I will not, di ko na rin po isa-isahin lahat. I think we don't need to focus much on our Bible verses as of now. But I know that, many of you knows about the Bible verses. And move on. Yet we can find sufficient evidence in the Bible to refute the doctrine of the absolute predestination. So, talking about the predestination, how can the principles of this predestination? Chapter chapter 6 of the section 1, the predestination of God's God's will. So when we talk about predestination, what is comes to your mind? To your mind, our brothers and sisters. Do you have any when you think about it? Any words that come to your mind when when you heard about the predestination? Yeah, later on you can answer that. Okay, inside it says here, God could not accomplish his purpose of creation due to the human fall. So the predestination of God's will. So let's first define actually what is the will. So, so before we discuss the predestination, yeah, discussing before discussing the predestination, of course, of the will, God could not accomplish his purpose of creation due to the human fall. So, babalik at babalik pa rin tayo actually to the principle of creation. So, therefore, the will of God in working his providence with the creation due to the fall. Therefore, the will of God in his providence with the fallen man is to accomplish his purpose of creation. Yun yung sinasabi natin na we still need to go back actually fulfilling the purpose of creation. In other words, the will means um, it's a fulfillment actually, fulfillment of the purpose of the providence of restoration. And of course, and also we must know that God determines first the will and then works to accomplish it. So having a created man. So God said God is the absolute being, unique, eternal, and unchanging. Therefore, his will must also be absolute, unique, eternal, and unchanging. So God's predestination of his will is absolute. And going to the section 2. Actually, this is just only short then, yeah. Section 2, the predestination of the way. Hindi ko makita. The predestination for the fulfillment of the will. Yeah, when we talk about also, still, doon pa rin talaga tayo babalik at the principle of creation. So as clarified actually in the principle of creation, although God's will of the providence of restoration absolute at beyond human influence, its fulfillment necessarily requires the accomplishment of the human portion of responsibility. This is what we are talking about actually, my dear brothers and sisters, that we have uh, fulfillment of God's will have 100%, that God responsibility is 95%, and human responsibility is just 5%. Actually, the latest one is only 4% that we had. God predestines the process of its fulfillment conditional contingent upon the 5% responsibility of the central figure, which must be completed in addition to the 95% responsibility of God. So the proportion of 5% is used to indicate that the human portion of responsibility is extremely small when compared to God's portion of responsibility. Yet, for human beings, this 5% is equivalent to 100% of our effort. So, yeah, the predestination of the fulfillment of God's will is conditional. Actually, our portion of responsibility is very small compared to God's portion of responsibility. But why, yeah, sometimes it's very difficult for us actually to really fulfill that kind of portion of responsibility. And also said it, the predestination of the fulfillment of God's will is conditional. Actually, we still have to do something. Just not all are God's responsibility. Even though God give us as a responsibility, that's why we still need to take action on that thing. That's why when we talk about the predestination, it is predestination actually is a God complete and powerful sovereignty over the salvation of the man and woman. So I think in I might that's why we're talking about here our portion of responsibility, just the only 5% that we have. And yeah, I hope in this short lectures that we have in a section 1 and 2, you could be able to, yeah, and learn something. And I want also to, yeah, our next lecturer will continue the section 3 and 4. And for that, I I wanted to uh, call on or welcome our second lecturer for tonight. She's one of our regional BFD direct BFD director of Region 10 and the Blast family. May I request everyone to let us give a warm welcome Tita Sylvia Melo Diapera.
Hello, thank you, Jinx. So, good evening once again, brothers and sisters. Thank you, Jinx, for that very kind ano, introduction. So, yeah, pasensya na. Madali lang to, pero of course, maybe I think you have many questions along the way. But just to add on a little bit, in this section, I hope that we can really learn what really was God's plan on us, and then what has it to do with our destiny as a person, or maybe in our own old concept, destiny has it to do with it. And then, siguro, we also have, Jinky has discussed about God's will, which is, of course, the fulfillment or the realization of God's ideal of creation or purpose of creation. And it is, yeah, it's very very short but very clear about. She also have discussed about our 5% portion of responsibility, which is very necessary in the realization of God's will. That makes, although God is an absolute God and His will is also absolute, the realization of His creation is absolute. However, it become conditional due to the human portion of responsibility, right? So yeah, thank you, Jinx. Thank you very much for that. Very very short yet clear lecture. So, before I have to discuss chapter 3, let me share my screen muna. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So, ito na ako tuligon. Yeah. So, we have understood that when God created human beings, He actually had predestined human beings to realize His ideal creation, right? And we have learned in the previous chapter that it became conditional, however, because of our human portion of responsibility. Therefore, Adam and Eve were actually destined, or were being made, if they could have been the good answer. Okay, sorry. If they could have became the good ancestors of ours. Wait a minute. Sandali po ha. I hope I can. Yeah, sana ba ito? So yeah, I hope okay na ba? Okay na ba? Hello?
Yes po.
Okay. So thank you. So if only Adam and Eve became our good ancestors as humanity, upon their realization of fulfilling their portion of responsibility and obey God's commandment not to eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that time, God's predestination of human beings to realize His will could have been at that time it could have been realized supposedly. However, hindi nga, 'di ba? Yet wait a minute. Yung absolute predestination ni Adam at saka ni Eve, yung predestination nila is they're supposed to become our good ancestors. Yun talaga. And then how it really is also the same with us. Although we are already the fruit of their failure. However, our predestination is also the same. It did not had change, it did not vary at all. Yeah, yung original ideal ni God, ganun pa rin. We are supposed to become ideal people. So, um, we are only required to realize or fulfill our portion of the responsibility. We have to really
Grounded.
complete it supposedly. Therefore, God does not
Grounded.
really. Hello?
Grounded. Parang,
Grounded?
ano yun, sa,
What do you mean? He cannot hear me?
may nag-ano,
Ah, okay, kuya. Sorry, sorry. Wait a minute. Siguro grounded yung ano ko.
okay na.
Okay, okay.
Kanina
Okay, sige. So, here, we should understand that if a person does not complete his responsibility, he cannot become the person God has purposed him to be. Hence, predestination of human beings is conditional. So, lahat tayo, dahil kahit na product tayo ng fall, yung pagka-create natin, I should say, externally speaking, when we were born, we were conceived, our purpose is still to realize God's will. That's the realize God's purpose of creation. That is the realization of His, di ba ang ideal of creation ni God is to realize the three great blessings. So, ganun pa din tayo. Kahit na produkto tayo ng fall. So, dito dapat natin maintindihan na ano ba talaga ang extent ng determination ng faith natin with regards to, as an individual, with regards to God's will, yung three great blessings. So, sana, through the previous chapters, we could have understood fully na it really requires 100% of our efforts and portion of responsibility para ma-realize po ito. Yung realization ng three great blessings. So, wait a minute ha, kasi hindi ako nagmomo. Yun. So, here, dito na. So, para mas maintindihan natin, we have to know the predestination of of us, human beings. What makes it conditional. So, siguro na-mention na natin, no, na yung portion of responsibility which requires 100% of our investment and effort to be realized in contribution to the 95% portion of responsibility of God. Yung pag-choose niya sa atin. So, dito, especially tayo ngayon. Diretso lang tayo na, especially tayo. I think we have discussed in the previous chapters na yung mga central figures natin, when God has chosen them, may mga requirement din yun, and bakit sila yung napili. However, yung pag-choose nung taong yun, including us, I should say, I would like to claim, tayong lahat, kahit second gen or first gen, nandoon pa rin tayo sa posisyon na pinili tayo ni God, especially on this present time. Medyo bold ito dahil alam ko everybody know the principle. So, tayong lahat equally are chosen by God. Bakit tayo nandito sa present time? So, therefore, yung realization ng ideal ni God, of God's ideal of creation, again, uulitin natin na naging conditional siya dahil kailangan nating ma-realize at kailangan natin yung ng full awareness nung ating portion of responsibility that is very necessary for the realization of God's will in tatlo. So, God's providence of salvation begins, kasi alam natin na si Adam at saka si Eve nag-fall, di po ba? So, from that time onwards, God actually did not blame anyone. Instead, He took responsibility immediately para yung kanyang mga anak ay masisave. So, that of course start in the time of Adam's family, di po ba? So,
nandiyan na naman siya.
sama.
Galing mo na yung headset. Ano yun?
Am I clear now?
Yeah, very clear.
Okay, teka lang ha. Kasi, yeah. So, kasi baka ako hindi makarinig sa inyo. So, yan. So, haba ko. Yung tayong lahat are really destined. Yan na yung predestination. Napili na tayo ni God. Lahat. Wala namang exemption eh. Kasi kahit na hindi, sabihin na natin hindi tayo central figure, ganon. But however, kahit na sabihin natin we are just very insignificant or a very ordinary being, hindi tayo nasa Abel or leader position, still we are all required to fulfill our individual portion of responsibility to fully realize God's will and at this point to really realize God's providence of salvation, which is of course para sa kalahatan, hindi lang para sa one person. However, syempre, meron talagang mga tao na napili si God na mag-take responsibility at take in the position of being the Abel, who's the one going to be to leading the people, to many. Just like, for example, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and yeah, all these central figures which God has chosen to lead the people for them to go back to God's side. Di ba? I think we have understood that in the previous chapters. So, dito, gusto lang natin maintindihan natin kung paano ba yung pag-predestine ni God, ano ba yung, paano ba yung predestination ni God of us as human being ma-completely realize, at saka ano yung kailangan nating gawin as a contributor to that, the realization of His will. So, yeah, dito, God's providence of salvation begins from one point and gradually expands to cover the whole. So, alam naman natin na nag-umpisa yun sa individual, di po ba? Kay Eve, kasi nagkasala. Kay Eve at saka ni Adam, kasi supposed silang dalawa, supposedly. Kay Eve at saka ni Adam na nagkamali, and then, dahil na-multiply yun, now, dahil ang dami-dami na nilang, descendants, which includes all of us, kailangan na from one point to the bigger whole, na kailangan niyang imaibalik sa side ni God. So, therefore, in the providence of salvation, kasi nagkasala nga tayo, God first predestines one person to be in the central central figure, and then calls him to a mission. So, katulad din yun na sinabi natin, because supposedly Adam and Eve yun, ay hindi man nila na-realize. And God cannot work through Adam and Eve immediately. So, kailangan ni God kailangan kasi si Adam, who is supposed to be the true representative of God, had fulfilled the three great blessings, kaisa siya ni God, sa heart ni God, sa will ni God, sa mind ni God, pero dahil hindi nangyari yun, kailangan ni God i-divide si Adam. That's why may Cain at Abel. However, Cain and Abel was not able to restore that immediately. That salvation of human being caused by the fall. Walang hindi nangyari. Kaya, nag-wait, di ba, sa history, nag-wait pa siya ng another 10 generations, and then until he can find Noah. And then, Noah has to do the same. Kailangan, yung na-chose niyang tao, chosen person or central figure, siya yung na-predestine ni God, siya yung pinili ni God, na siya yung magli-lead or mag-represent ng the whole. Yan. However, as a central figure, God, mayroon ding qualification. Mayroon ding qualification na kailangang ma-meet ng central figure na yon. So, first, ang qualification na kailangan, mula kay Noah, punta tayo kay Abraham, which laid the family level for position foundation. Yeah. And then, pero, at the time, yung Messiah, yung pinakang savior talaga, yung Messiah, hindi pa maipadala ni God at that time. Kasi hindi pa na-fulfill at hindi pa na-realize, yung foundation is not enough for the Messiah to come. Kaya, dun sa history ng mga natin, yung una ng previous chapters, we have realized na, kailangan pala ng family level, nation level, na mga foundation para makarating talaga ang Messiah. So, it happened, that's why when we have learned about dun sa previous chapter, yung pagdating Jesus Christ as the only begotten Son, who is supposed to to bring salvation to all humanity, may mga conditions siya na minimit. And all of the other central figures. Kaya nga, of which Jesus Christ, in Jesus Christ's time, it was Abraham, it was in Abraham's, Jacob pala. It was Jacob's parang lifestyle, the Jacob's course yung maging pattern. So, ganun, dahil nga Jesus was not able to bring about salvation, fast forward na tayo ngayon, tayo din is actually placed in the same position, brothers and sisters. So, yeah, hindi man tayo sa lahat ng central figures, but this is one thing that we have to understand, no? Na ano ba ang role ng central figure na dapat nating i-follow? Katulad ni, halimbawa ni Jacob, o katulad ni Jesus Christ. So, first, we have to understand that the central figure has to be born into the chosen people in charge of the providence of restoration. Paano ba? Sino ba to? For example, katulad ni Moses, no? Na when he was predestined conditionally to lead the Israelite people, no? The time kasi of which malamang this is a very long story when we talk back about when we have to discuss back how Israel has came about. However, it was during the time of Jacob. Alam naman natin, yung nung Jacob when he is to assume, he is to assume the able position. Kailangan mo na niyang kailangan mo na kunin niyang birthright mula sa brother niya, elder brother niya, si Esau. Kailangan mo na niyang, he had gone to resolve the angel, kaya nakuha na yung Israel na name, di ba? So, mga ganun, mga kailangan, at saka kailangan muna na mula siya sa chosen people. So, the same thing with Jesus Christ. But, alam natin na Jesus Christ did not accomplish what is supposed to be accomplished during his time because hindi kasi may failure din yung mga tao na which is supposed to cooperate or to unite with him during his time. And that person, kaya nga, when Jesus failed and when Jesus went to the cross, sabi niya, babalik siya. Of which we Christians now, we Christian people believe na at inaantay natin the Lord of the Second Advent. However, dito din natin naiintindihan sa predestination earlier na grabe yung confusion natin, ang understanding natin because of that background that we have. Grabe yung misunderstanding natin about predestination of us human beings and kung kahit because of the previous siguro yung na-feed in sa atin na information is nakabase lang talaga kung doon lang tayo nakabase. However, this new truth has to make us and help us able to understand kung ano ba talaga ang predestination ni God sa atin as human beings. So this is something that we have to understand. So kaya nga pinag-uusapan natin ngayon kung paano ba ma-qualify ang isang central figure, ano bang mga qualifications para makita natin or ba malaman natin na siya yung pinili ni God, di ba? So, he has to be born from the chosen people in charge of the providence of the restoration. Second, he must come from an ancestral line with many good accomplishments. Yun, katulad nung nila ni Abraham, no? Dapat doon sila. Then, that person, that central figure that is to lead us back to salvation or bring us back to the bosom of the heavenly parent, our original true parent, is endowed with the requisite character needed in realizing God's will. So, meron siyang very unique character na only God knew. Only God knew kung ano yun. And then, this also has, this person has to develop the necessary qualities during his early life. Kumbaga, as early and as young as he were, he already had prepared, in a way, a kind of lifestyle and a quality lifestyle that could really make people see that he was prepared by God. And, of course, that central figure has to live in a time and place most fitting in God's need. So, ito yung mga qualification of a central figure na um, pinili ni God, na predestined ni God to really, to bring about salvation or total salvation. So that the providence of salvation of humankind be realized. So, ito yung mga 5 qualification na kailangan meron ang central figure. So, ano ba yan? Gano'n na ba yun? So, my goodness, ano ba yun? So, ano bang dapat nating maiintindihan natin here? Also, I think another thing na dapat nating mauunawaan is katulad na lang ng on the predestination is that person in relation to the resurrection, kaunti, that person's ancestors should had been able to yung, di ba, mula siya sa ancestral line with many good deeds. So, dapat meron ding, parang siya yung nakaka-inherit ng merit, siya yung mag-ano ng, may ma-inherit siyang merit of the age, patulad natin. Ma-inherit tayong, hindi naman lahat hindi lahat atin, pero parang natural siya na magkaroon o meron ang taong yan dahil yun sa good deeds ng mga ancestors niya. However, there's one thing that we have to really understand in this predestination. Hindi ito mangyayari kahit na by merit na siya, kahit galing siya sa chosen people, kahit mayroon siyang requisite character needed in the realization of God's will, kahit na meron siyang dinaanan na really concrete developmental qualities during his early life age, and even kahit na nandito siya ngayon, again, I would like to reiterate that the realization of this predestination of us being the human beings who is being chosen by God as a central figure is still conditional dahil kailangan pa rin ng taong yon na ma-realize or ma-fulfill yung kanyang portion of responsibility. Yung 5% portion of responsibility, yung fulfillment or pouring out of his effort and sincerity towards realizing realizing God's will. So, yun. Kung ano ba yung will ni God? Siyempre, yung pag-realize ng 3 great blessings. Yun yung kailangan yung substantial na magawa. Of which, of course, at this present moment, it is already our true parents, no? So, kailangan nating maintindihan yan, at saka ma-reflect din sa atin kung ano din yung pwede nating i-contribute with regards to the predestination of us being the human beings who is necessary or present at this time na sa time ng second advent. Yan. So, I hope na mention ko, or anyway, you can ask later on whatever is kung hindi nyo naiintindihan. So, another thing that we have to understand in this section, in this chapter of the predestination is the elucidation of biblical verses which support the doctrine of absolute predestination. So, in previous chapter, in section 1, there has been many Bible verses that supports absolute predestination. However, meron ding mga of human beings to be like that somehow had caused confusion in us Christian believers, di po ba? Na lahat ng bagay na lang, kahit yung misery, kahit yung happiness, kahit yung damnation, at saka yung mga ganun mga pagkaunawa natin na akala natin lahat ay kagustuhan ni God. However, dahil yun sa ating paniniwala at pagtiwala sa Biblia. However, in the same Bible wherein we had caught this or have gotten this concrete idea na ang lahat ng bagay na nangyari sa atin is due to God's responsibility, meron ding mga Bible verses na nagre-refute na hindi totoo yung sinabi sa una. Yung ganon, di po ba? So ngayon, kailangan nating maintindihan in some way or another. Kailangan nating mas maliwanagan. Ano ba talaga, which Bible verses supports the doctrine of the absolute predestination. So here, we can, in the book of Romans, chapter 29 to 30, it says that those whom he foreknew, he also predestined. And those he predestined, he also called. And those whom he called, he also justified. And those whom he justified, he also glorified. So, dito, dapat nating tayo maintindihan na kahit si God is, even God, even if God is a being of omniscience, or yeah, he is an omniscient God, and he knows who has the qualification necessary to become the central figure, right? In the providence of restoration. However, God also predestines those whom He foreknows. Pinipredestina niya, pinili na niya. Then He calls them or him to fulfill such purpose of, para ma-realize ang purpose of the providence. And then, calling the person or predestining the person is God's responsibility. And yun lang ang meron si God. He is entitled to do. He is entitled to choose that person. And, however, yung pag-realize ng tao sa kanyang responsibility, it is only then can he be glorified. Actually, so God's predestination concerning an individual's glorification is thus contingent or dependent upon our individual or that person's individual portion of responsibility. So, dito, ito yung verse na, dito sa Romans dito, hindi din kasi na-mention sa verse na ito, yung portion of responsibility ng tao. Na siyang nakapag-lead ng mga tao or nakapag-cause ng misinterpretation of people about the absolute predestination of human beings. So, however, okay. So here, God predestines those whom He foreknows, then He calls upon him to fulfill the purpose of the providence. Calling the person is God's responsibility, but only when the person completes his responsibility after being called by God is he justified and then glorified. So, yung justification of his being the central person, kailangan na kasali na din yung tao mismo. Siya na mismo, mayroon na siyang contribution doon before he can really be glorified. So, yun lang yung pagpili at saka alam ni God in the very beginning kung ano yung quality, ano yung character ng tao yung pinili niya. Na alam niya at saka he have absolute faith to really be able to carry on or to carry out the realization of His will. However, yung realization nga again, ulitin natin, yung justification noong kanyang predestination has something to do with His portion of responsibility which is very necessary para that person could really be glorified. And for his being predestined person. So because the Bible verse does not mention the human person's responsibility, people may misinterpret it to mean that all affairs are determined solely by God's absolute predestination. Katulad nung na-mention ko kanina, kahit yung akala natin, yung miseries natin, yung difficulties natin, akala natin na, ito yung will ni God. Ganon. No? However, hindi, meron din nga, kailangan natin maintindihan na meron mga Bible verses that really refute this kind of understanding that we have as believers, Christian believers. Oy, nako Lord. So, how am I going to discuss this one? Saan ba? So, here, I would like to read a little bit of the notes. We know that another example ng verse na somehow we may have thought that supports absolute predestination of God on human beings is He said na I will have mercy on whom I have mercy and I will have compassion on whom I have compassion. So here it actually supports on God's predestination of man's destiny of being the central figure. However, paulit-ulit na ako, no? However, alam ni God naman talaga nung pinili niya na itong taong to, katulad na lang halimbawa ni Abraham or katulad na nga ba halimbawa ni Noah, alam niya na siya lang yung pinaka-obedient na tao at loyal na tao among those people na nakita niya after 10 generations, after Adam and Eve's family. So, alam na ni God yun. And then, however, meron ding isa sa mga verses that supports or refutes, refute ba? No. Supports predestination, absolute predestination of God to human beings is yung sinabi ni Saint Paul na sabi niya, has the potter no right over the clay or to make out the same lump, one vessel for beauty and the other for menial use? Kung baga, ang creator lang ang mas nakakaalam kung ano yung dapat or kung ano yung kanyang ginawa doon sa mga ginawa niya, yung ganun, yung purpose of creation. Although we have understood in the beginning na kung kung sino, katulad ng ballpen na ito, ang mas nakakaalam kung para ano to, is yung gumawa nito, di po ba? However, we also learned later on na in human beings, it's different because we are endowed with portion of responsibility. Kaya, ito yung different or make us, aside from making us his children and the center of all creation, and aside from being the template of all things that has existed in this universe, ang nakakapagpaiba sa atin is yung binigay ni God sa atin yung portion of responsibility natin para ma-inherit natin yung kanyang goodness, para ma-realize natin yung kanyang ibinistow niya sa atin na 3 faculties, which is the intellect, the emotion, and the will. Kasi doon lang natin ma-realize o ma-fully realize yung pagiging kaisa natin sa Kanya. And that we will be able to inherit His creative nature and inherit natin yung Kanyang goodness, yung we become one with Him, and we as human beings become His true representative, inherit His true value. So yun yung kakaiba sa human person, sa ating mga tao, of which although yun yung pinakang gustong-gusto ni God na mangyari talaga sa ating lahat, especially the central figure, which is to set the example. Mangyayari lang yun kung ang tao ay gagawa ng kanyang kailangang gawin, which is necessary para ma-realize yung 3 blessings. So, ano ba ang dapat natin maunawaan dito, brothers and sisters, in this predestination? Simple lang. Simple lang ba? Parang simple lang. Na tayo, since we are all chosen, I should say, say mo na, the central figure that as God foreknew and has predestined to become the central figure of which all of us should follow and emulate from, to be our example, to be the model, to be one with the heart of God, to be one with the will of God, to be one with the knowledge of God, is yun yung dapat makaka-fulfill nung kanyang portion of responsibility without any hesitation, but without reservation, but rather with all his investment and sincerity. So yun yung dapat nating maunawaan dito sa predestination nito, sa lecture na ito, yung predestination. Again, yung predestination ni God sa pagpili sa atin at saka sa pagkakaalam niya kung sino tayo, that is God's portion of responsibility, which of course involves 95% of His will and His effort and His heart and His power. However, the completion of this, the realization of it in 100% manner, may kailangan tayong i-contribute na 5% of responsibility that makes His absolute predestination conditional, because of that POR, or portion of responsibility that we all have to contribute or realize, and it's very very necessary. So ito din yung ito yung na-realize, ito yung nagawa, ito yung na-present or na-set ng ating true parents, which this new truth is trying to bring to us, in front of us, na kailangan nating maintindihan talaga. And kung not just understand, but truly actualize in practice, in how to say, substantially become a way of our life para magiging nating kaisa si God. And then, but of course, again, it may be, ideally, it may be very easy, but since we are all the product of the fall, then we have to, prior to having started to the level wherein we can have that full authority, I should say, or a qualification to develop and grow into a person whom God can really be able to be proud of because we have inherited His value. We have to go through the process of indemnity because of that failure of our first human ancestors. However, it is only now, during the time of our true parents, had we had understood this one. Kaya, our challenge is a lot greater compared to those people during the time of Abraham and Moses and even Jesus Christ, because this time our true parents had already bring to us the new truth, which make us able to have at least more and detailed um, understanding on what are the things that is necessary to be done for us to truly qualify to become God's true sons and daughters, right? So, yun yung, which is yun din yung original idea ni God and purpose of His creation na magiging anak niya tayo talaga. And then, yeah, ulitin ko po, kaya kahit na predestined ni God tayo to become to fully qualify as His filial sons and daughters, we still have to go through the providence of the course of indemnity for us to qualify. Kaya lahat ng, especially first gen, lahat tayo ngayon, when we know the truth, when sometimes, di ba, mayroon nakakaisip tayo na sana hindi ko na lang alam yung divine principle, yung new truth, kasi mas mahirap ang buhay. Mas mahirap ang buhay dahil alam natin yung tunay na standard na dapat natin, kailangan natin gawin. However, because we are all, I should say, predestined, has been chosen, and for us to qualify to be called and justified as chosen people, we have to truly exercise our 5% portion of responsibility by, of course, first understanding this truth, and then it has taught us how the true truth actually had taught us on how are we going to do it. And it can only be done by having absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience to the Word of God. Actually, it's not almost not different from the time of Adam and Eve. They were given the same, they were given the Word, and then during the growing period, they're supposed to follow and completely have absolute faith, love, and obedience. Have absolute faith with the heavenly parents, and have absolute love and complete obedience to the word. However, it did not happen. Kaya ngayon, ito ang kailangan nating maintindihan, of which alam natin is a lot heavier because we had been the product of multiple and thousands of multiplied or escalated result of the fall. So, yun, kaya kailangan nating i-go through ang indemnity course. But again, sabihin ko, paulit-ulit na ako, we are all predestined, we are all chosen. And then for us to be justified as chosen and predestined, we have to exercise and fully realize our portion of responsibility so that God's ideal of creation can really be fulfilled fully and it put into actual or substantialization. And then we should be grateful to our true friends once again because of this new truth that we are now all studying upon, and we are together learning in this very short what's this lecture that we're having, this predestination. I hope that brothers and sisters, we have somehow understood the very essence, the very purpose, the very responsibility that we are all owed to do in this present time as people whom God has predestined and chosen to um, contribute in the realization of His will. And that is the true salvation of all humankind. And yeah, which of this time, yun sinasabi and tinatawag ng ating true parents or ng true mother na the establishment of the Holy Community na sa time ni Jesus Christ, establishment of the kingdom of heaven here on earth as He promised. No? So, I think that's all that I have for this night, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much po. Sana natututo po tayo kahit kaunti doon sa ating lecture. Thank you! Okay, so ako pala. So, ako lang pala talat. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters. So, I think this is Monty lang, no? It is reflection time. So, maybe later on, of course, if you have questions or if you have we will be asking our leaders and the elders to add on. However, at this point, we will be calling everyone to please have your oral reflection. So, shall we get started? Sino po ba ang may... Sana at this time we can develop voluntary spirit since we are all predestined, I should say, and we are all chosen. So, may kanya-kanya po tayong time for that. And I know in due time you will all be able to realize that too. So, yan is our chance to practice na po. So, saan po tayo, kanino po tayo mag-uumpisa ng reflection? Ako ba mamimili or so Mikael raised his hand. So we may call on Kuya Mikael. Brothers and sisters, you give him a virtual round of applause. Welcome, Kuya Mikael.
Good evening po, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much po sa lecturers for the wonderful lecture and also for the staff. Ayun po, napa-volunteer po ako because I found one of the requests sa comments, sa chat na reflection points based on the principle discussion of predestination. Is sin natural or not? Please justify the answer. So ayun, kakabasa ko lang po. So hindi masyadong maganda yung pagka-construct ng answer ko at I wouldn't be sure kung how long. Pero ayun nga, based on the principle of predestination, yun nga 'di ba na no matter what God has in plan for us or has predestined for us to become, whether hindi naman lang kasi every role, especially in the providence of restoration, is very much valuable. So ayun, no matter what role is given to us, whether it be as a central figure or not, ayun nga, 'di ba na we still have to fulfill our portion of responsibility. Otherwise, wala lang rin. Yun nga na glory won't be given to us or we won't be able to achieve yung role na or we won't be able to reach the level that God has intended for us. So in that respect, sin is yung term? Sin is natural or not? By that, I mean, is sinning predestined as well? Well, if kung ganun yung context ng ng natural, of course it's not. Kasi yun nga, 'di ba? Going back pa lang, I mean not even including yung predestination. God made us to have free will. And from that itself, sinning is not sinning is voluntary, and when a person tawag doon? A person is conscious whenever they're committing sinful acts. So ayun. And pero ano rin po kasi, we also have to take into consideration yung state ng ng world, physical world as it is. Kasi yun nga, 'di ba? Currently, it's not kingdom of heaven on earth. It's in reality, it's we're living in a world of physical world based on on Satan's dominion. And although of course we're working towards our salvation as well as the salvation of restoration of the physical world. Pero yun nga kasi not just the environment but also yun din yung state ng being natin. I mean on people who haven't received the blessing or who haven't been blessed like people like me who have who are the children of the blessing. They are still living in sin. They still have Satan's lineage within them, and which makes them susceptible, greatly susceptible to the influence of evil spirits. Kaya of course na when we're sinning, we're still conscious, pero we still have to take into account yung influence ng spirit world sa atin. Kasi yun nga, 'di ba, na even though even though most people have weak spirits because of the fall, there's still a spiritual self in us. And I think when we say weak spirit, hindi naman sa wala na yung natin, kundi we still have a spiritual self. It's just that our inclination is more towards sinfulness rather than our original purpose, which is supposed to be towards goodness. So ayun. Pero bottom line, yung answer ko doon is sinning is not natural, and it was not intended for us human beings to sin or to live in sin, because we, as God intended us when He created us, is to be in His image, and God in that respect is a God of love and a God of principle. So no, sinning is not natural. And for my reflection, that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kuya Michael. So yeah, it's really I the way I have understood Kuya Michael is because God is a God of goodness, because God is a good God of goodness and love, then sinning is not natural because it is only seemingly natural because we are yet even them as a product of the blessing who is now in the equal footing or the same possession of that sinless Adam and Eve, we are yet very susceptible of the environment plus the spiritual cooperation of the ancestors that are really always wanting to encroach in them because they're very attractive, being shining, having a shining spirit, very attractive spirit that really makes the ancestors wanted to really be more attracted to because they knew that these young people, this blessing children of the result of the blessing is their only hope. However, of course, that our ancestors are very ignorant of this truth. That's why they are not exempted to committing sin and the influence of the environment as well. And we know that this environment has been the product of the failures of our first human ancestors. That's why. So, wow, thank you very much, Kuya Michael, for that very nice, very clear answer po. Thank you. So, yeah. A big round of applause for Kuya Michael again. Now we are going to proceed to the next who is going to give reflection because we still have so much time here. Oh. Yeah. Sino po ang susunod? Kailangan na po ba nating magrulita? I would like then to ask Ate Monina to kindly do that on my behalf. Please, Ate Monens, are you there? For Ate Jinky. Okay, Ate Jinky. Thank you, Ate Jinky. Now we have to, start. Choosing our, larga bula. Ganun yun? Okay, so brothers and sisters, do we have, diba? Yeah, we have a winner. Brothers and sisters, please welcome with a big round of applause our Ate Jenna.
Okay,
Welcome,
so
Ate Gina.
good evening, hello friends. Good evening po, Tita Ate Sylvia. Good evening po,
Evening, guys.
leaders na dito ngayon, and to all our brothers and sisters. Good evening.
Hello po.
Uh, hello, Ate Relina. I miss you too. So,
Nawawala ako
ayan.
lagi sa internet.
So, ayan. Regarding first, I would like to answer the question na ni-raise po dati, really na dito. Is sin is natural or not? So, uh, I think it's not. No, it's not natural, because it becomes natural when our first ancestors have fell in the Garden of Eden. So maybe, yeah, if if our first human ancestors did not fall, so there will be no concept of sin. I think so. Yeah. So yan po, no. And my reflection on the predestination. So uh, I've been reflecting while Ate Sylvia is giving her lecture. Like in predestination of human beings, because God is absolute and eternal and unchanging. It means that God, His plan, that blueprint na kinreate niya on that kinreate niya yung tao and also the universe is already unchanging. Yeah, it's eternal. So yung ngayon is the responsibility, yung predestination ng human beings. Kaya um yeah, like the salvation, no, how salvation will takes place. So ayan na it starts from one person, like third Adam, for first Adam, second Adam, third Adam. So I've been reflecting also sa sarili ko, and I know that all of us here, we are predestined also to be in this position. And in my place na just like our first like Jesus and true parents, they are predestined, no, prepared by their ancestors, and hindi madali, the hardships na pinagdaanan nila. And I think we are also at that position now na we are all predestined here, and yung salvation din ng ancestors natin, and also our future descendants will depend on us, and it's on our hands yung future ng descendants natin. Kaya we are called, and we will be chosen. Actually, somebody told me that we will be chosen until we will receive the blessing. I cannot say yes. I cannot agree on that yet. But yeah, so ayun na uh, I believe that I am predestined here, and I believe also that we are all, no, we are all. Kaya our responsibility also na how, like for example, like all of us now, we will receive the blessing, and receive our um respective spouses. How can we really take responsibility on that God and your parents will be happy. Yeah, and yun na we will be the starting point of the lineage na galing kay God. And kaya very the second generations are really blessed. They're blessed children. Kaya ayun. No, so I think follow-up question. What inspiration did you receive
perceive? I mean, yeah, what inspiration did you perceive about predestination? So, ayun, na by receiving, by the lecture, um, I realize that, ano, kahit pinipredestine tayo dito, pag we will not take the responsibility, wala pa din. Wala pa din. Kaya nasasayang lahat yung foundation ng ancestors natin. I know our ancestors are doing Jongsong din. Na they're really working hard na para mag-continue tayo. We will fight each and every day sa life of faith natin. Kaya ayun na that's my like determination also na to really continue despite the hardships and despite the struggles, and everyday naman din kahit saan may struggles, but then to continue is very important na despite. Ayun, so think yun lang, thank you so much, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ate Jenna. So, Ate Jenna was saying that our PORs are very necessary in the realization of and the fulfillment of God's ideal of creation and the realization of purpose of creation, no? So, yeah, it's very good. Thank you, Ate. Yeah. So, we're very proud of you. Thank you for your hard work, Ate Jenna. Yeah. So now we will have to proceed to the next one to give her or his reflection. May I request then again Ate Jingy to please roll on our bola larga bola char. Our rulita. Ruleta pala, dili rulita. Sorry. Kusuga oy. So, wow. Now, we are going to welcome Miss Ruchi. Yay! A big round of applause, brothers and sisters. Welcome, Ate Ruchi.
Okay, good evening, leaders, brothers and sisters, and thank you, Ate Selvia, for your lectures po. And then, yeah, dito talaga ako na predestination. So, parang every time na nag-attend ako ng seminar, so I try to understand this chapter, predestination. So, ayan, I always, ang lagi kong maalala dito sa lecture nito is yung 5% responsibility natin na how we can fulfill it or achieve or so ayun, nakarelate ako kanina when Ate Sylvia said na pag alam mo nga yung principle parang ang hirap. So yeah, that's how I feel na ang hirap lalong-lalo na pag yung gusto mo yung mga taong ma-educate sa principle but hindi mo nga hawak yung isip ng tao. But then again, ayun. So, kung iisipin natin is 5% nga lang. So, parang ang lang, pero it is equivalent to 100% effort to do our responsibility. So, for me, ayun, maybe 1% hindi pa siguro ganun ka yung effort ko to do the God's will. So because since we are the product of the fall, so it's hard to overcome all those challenges or struggles. But yeah, when inisip ko din na bakit ang dami naming so isa ako sa mga naka-receive sa principal. So maybe, ayun nga, I will do my responsibility to share to my tribe, especially sa hindi ko siya na kasi sa side ng mother ko, so ayan na, meron akong uncle na siya yung mag-guide sa ano namin, sa tribe. But then sa sa father side ko, na parang ako pa lang yung nakakaalam ng principle. So I try my best to to reach them, to share the divine principle na parang gusto ko na malaman nila na yeah, kailangan yung ma-receive yung divine principles. So with that kahit yan lang yung muna yung ginugol ko as my responsibility, or ayun lang, first I need to muna maging good model sa kanila, kasi how can they believe me to share the principle if myself hindi pa rin napupulfill yung So I try also to my best na ma-receive ko yung blessing, or ma-match ako, so that parang kasi pag ma-match ako, parang madali ko na lang I can show to my dun sa tribe namin, to my father's side, na yeah, you must follow kung kasi parang may that time na I can show to them na because of this principle, divine principle, I live according to yeah, yung parang good. So since then parang kasi always ko talagang na parang sorry God, I always say sorry to God na sometimes na yeah God, I'm sorry na minsan hindi ko na yung nasi-share yung words mo to mas madali pa akong makapag ng makaka-encourage, ay maka-encourage ng mga taong nakapalibot sa akin, especially sa mga kaibigan ko and teachers ko. So yeah. Then yeah, I try to invite them to join the but they will keep asking me na kamusta yung match mo, ganun. So they are waiting also para talaga sumunod sila sa akin. So yeah, yun yung pinaka ko muna ngayon, goal as my responsibility is to receive the blessing from our parents. Yan, para at least may mapatunayan din ako sa hindi lang sa tribe ko, and then to other people also, and my co-teachers na lagi kong kasama sa school. So ayun, maybe that's all for my reflection. Thank you so much po.
Thank you so much, Ate Ruchi. So Ate Ruchi was talking about being the role model for her. Actually, yung ko pala, gusto ko lang tinanong niya, how are you going to qualify as the Messiah of your own tribe? So, parang yun, sinagot mo din po. Ate Lucia, you have the answer already actually. So just thank you for that, for answering your own question. Alam na po natin because of the new truth, no? So yeah, we just have to live. Na-mention ko yata kanina na the divine principle is not just an ideology, it's not just a concept, but it is a way of life. So how are you going to practice it every day? Yun yung magiging makapag-qualify already because of after receiving the blessing. Yeah, because that is the point, the turning point for us to get started, say first generation most especially, to qualify to be in the possession of the sinless Adam and Eve, for us to really grow and develop and inherit the goodness of God and the true value of God, the true emotion and intellect and will of God. Yun after receiving the blessings. So yun yung pinaka-goal natin, kasi right this time we are still on the process of indemnity. So yan. But anyway, we should always be grateful because we're given the opportunity to indemnify, right, brothers and sisters? So yeah, we are all predestined actually, and we have to contribute. Our contribution is very necessary for us to be justified on that predestination of ours, and we therefore can be glorified after us fulfilling our personal responsibility. Ayun. So yeah, I think we have to now proceed to the next one to give the reflection. So may I request Ate Jingy again to kindly have our next person to give reflection. Mhm. All right, we have another winner here. Wow. Wala to'y pabor-pabor, mga igsuon, mga brothers and sisters. The one to give reflection this time is coming from our Region 10. Please help me welcome with a big round of applause, Miss Charmaine Mayo. Big round of applause. Welcome, Charmaine.
Yay! Okay. Good evening, heavenly parents and true parents. Good evening to my precious brothers and sisters and leaders. Yes, so my reflection from the lecture about the meaning of predestination. So, yes, we all know that predestination is the plan of God. As I remember, God calls every central figure or every person, and that is um, his responsibility to call a person so that he or she can accept the mission as his portion of responsibility. And then I also, I know, reflect that yeah, we all know that our human portion of responsibility, which is 5%, is yeah, it it's really a big challenge, even though it's someone. um, uh, anyway, going back, it's a big challenge for us as human beings lang, when we fulfill our portion of responsibility, centering on the plan of God. That is, yes. I also remember what Ati Sylvia said, that in order for us as human beings to be clarified, to be to be justified and be glorified, then we really need to exercise our portion of responsibility for yes, the portion of responsibility of human beings for God's purpose of creation, for God's providence to be realized if we um, fulfill our responsibility in actual situations. So that's what I learned from the lecture. And I also want to answer the the reflection something, the question, the reflection points. Yes. um is sin natural or not? So actually, as I've heard from, yes, see Ate Jenna, that sin is not natural to I know, as I understand, because it is because of the fall of the first human ancestors, Adam and Eve, that because of their fall, um we started to like violate the heavenly law. And we they set a condition for Satan to enter. And that is really, yes, it's not natural, because if only Adam and Eve do not fall did not fall did not fall, and and instead they would become the true parents who can receive the blessing from God, then there will be no sin. Because I know, we all know that in the previous chapter, in chapter 2, that sin is a heavenly law, which for human beings we did a give it take action with Satan. So that is why sin is not natural. That's why um we need to, that's why I want to say that we have our purpose, we have our portion of responsibility, and we are, yes, we are doing this for not only for ourselves but for um God's providence to be realized. So yes, that's all. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Wow. Thank you, Miss Charmaine. Thank you so much for that very wonderful reflection. So, yeah, Other Charmaine was trying to point out that, yeah, how are we going to, we usually say portion of responsibility, but yeah, we just parang siguro yun paulit-ulit na natin sinasabi yun. However, yung substantiation, yung actual action of this is depende sa bawat isa sa atin on to whatever situation and whatever undertaking we are required to, just like our Kuya Michael said, and whatever role rule we are being called upon to do is nakadepende yon doon kung ano yung dapat nating gagawin. So, yun yung gusto sabihin ni Ate Charmaine, no? And also for answering that, of course, indeed, sin is never natural because we know very well that is what it was not part of God's plan. However, God already actually had a perception that there is a possibility for man to. That's why he gave us the word and he gave us the commandment, no? He gave commandment to Adam and Eve for them to have an abiding like thing for them to follow, for them not to sin. However, they were not able to recognize that. And then I would like to stress further that part of our portion of responsibility is to know and to understand what God's word or will is. So that is part of it. Because without us understanding and knowing what really God's will is, and then we might as well be able to do the same mistake that Adam and Eve did. And then, just like I said earlier, that we are indeed really very, very, very fortunate because at this present time, our two parents, aside from setting the example, being the model of this new truth that we are studying upon, is aside from being the role model, they also have um, discussed or had taught us how to do things in detail. And how are we going to, they do not just show us example, but they have taught us how to do it in detail, what step by step, for us to not repeat the same mistake of our first human ancestors. Diba? So, yun. Thank you, Kuya Charmaine. Kuya Charmaine. Ate Charmaine, Miss Charmaine, I love you. So, next, we are going to proceed to the next one to give the reflection. Thank you very much, Ate Jinky. And we have a winner. Our winner is no other than the charming Miss Catherine. Welcome, brothers and sisters. Let's help her. Welcome her with a big round of applause. Yeah. Welcome, Miss Catherine.
Hello po, good evening po. Good evening. Naririnig po? Malinaw po. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Miss Catherine. Go
Naririnig
ahead,
po?
please. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, brothers and sisters. To yung Ma'am Silvia, thank you po sa magandang lecture. Para po sa akin, yung sa tanong na, yun nga, sin is natural or not? Siyempre, of course not. And for me, predestination is the will of God and it's absolute. For me, every every goodness na ma-accomplish ng isang tao is will of God. Lahat ng mabuti na nagagawa ng isang tao. Pero sabi nga nila, mag-depend, dapat gawin mo rin yung portion of responsibility mo. Kasi kung hindi mo yun gagawin, wala rin mangyayari. I mean, 5% nga lang yung human responsibility natin, pero hirap pa rin tayong magawa yun. So,
Hala, oy. Tapos na ba?
Okay na po. Ay,
Tapos
hindi
na
ako
ba?
Opo, tapos na.
Okay, sorry. Dahil na-mute yata ikaw. Kaya hindi ko narinig lahat. Okay, so thank you, ate. I would like to call you ate because all of us here are family. So, yeah, please be natural. Don't, lahat ng reflection natin ay, yeah, tama naman, wala namang mali. So, yeah. Just like Ate Catherine is saying that lahat ng goodness ay will ni God. Yes, it's true. Because we are created out of His own image and likeness and goodness, of course. However, becoming good or bad is our choice, right? That's why God has given us the responsibility to choose. He has given us the word to follow for us to choose the goodness and not the other thing. However, um, yeah, because of the influences that we have in the previous uh, ancestors that we have that could have had made us, aside from our own POR that has also had an influence, right? No? So, pero mas nasa sa ating mga kamay, nasa individual nating mga kamay, ang desisyon either to do sin. Katulad ng sinabi ni Kuya Michael kanina, no? Na it is our choice, actually, in short. It is our choice to become bad. Or, yeah, becoming good is also a choice every day. That's the beautiful gift that God has given to us, that portion of responsibility, that free will that He has endowed to human beings. So, yeah. So, actually, we are all just reminded to exercise the goodness in us, to choose the right thing. And, yeah, again, ulitin ko na naman, our true parents had deliberately say or do it and have explained to us step by step the things that we need to do. So we should be very grateful to them. Aside from being our model, we have given us the right path already, clearly. How are we going to do it? All right? So yeah, thank you so much, Ate Catherine. We'll now proceed to the next one to give reflection. Miss Jinky, take it away. Wow. And we have the winner. Brothers and sisters, help me welcome Miss Myong Grace Mayo for her reflection. Welcome, Myong.
Yeah, once again, good evening, heavenly parents. Good evening, leaders, brothers and sisters. Good evening. uh, okay. So my reflection from the lecture, predestination. So all of us knows that uh, we have a purpose. God gave us a purpose, and that purpose has responsibility. So God's responsibility is 95% and ours is only 5%. So although it seems small, but it's actually hard to strive that 5%. Even first generation or second generation, we all have bigger responsibility. Also not for ourselves, but also for the providence. So of course, to achieve it, we have to continuously do our portion of responsibility, and that is to fulfill again the three great blessing and also give joy and happiness to our heavenly parents. And also from the lecture about God's plan, like um we know that the absolute plan of God is our first ancestors to receive the blessing from God, but because of their mistake, God's predestination has been prolonged and was given to another central figure. And yun, it's 6,000 years talaga, like God's uh plan. And yun nga, God's God's God feel really very is in really in pain And because of course many of them have failed, and yun nga. But since true parents have arrived, we are we are very grateful that we are here alive, and we know true parents, and we know that our purpose why we're here. So yun nga, we shouldn't like take it for granted. Just as we believe to Jesus, to true parents, we also need to take our part as part of the unification church. So yun. So that's all. Thank you. 감사합니다. 사랑합니다.
사랑합니다. 준마네요. Char. Pilingon kay ko. Thank you, Miyong, for that beautiful reflection. Yeah. Miyong was saying that we are all, God's plan, original plan is to make God happiest. For us to become the true object partner of His, not only His goodness, but of object partner of His love, and to become a source of His joy. So, yon yung pinaka-ideal of creation ni God for every one of us to become. And, yeah, hindi lang lahat ng central figure ang merong ganun when they are chosen, but all of us are chosen. And we are very fortunate because of our true parents at the present time. Again, because they have taught us, that they have told us, already elucidated the confusion that we used to have about this concept of predestination of human beings. No? So thank you so much, Myong. Now we can proceed to the next one to give reflection. Ate Jinky, take it away. We have 3 more people left to give reflection before our elders could add on to the, 3 more. Wow, now we have another winner. Let's welcome up Kuya Nicolas. Brothers and sisters, a big round of applause for Kuya Nicolas. Welcome, Kuya Nicolas.
Good evening to all the leaders, brothers and sisters. So, as this topic again about the predestination. So, actually, predestination is a very also as a very the best kinds of topic also sa divine principle. So, Father is very very wise to discover this secret of heaven actually. Na talagang na ano niya talaga yung pinaka core ng creation, yung because of this predestination inano talaga ni true parents na this is the purpose of God. So talagang the best talaga ito siya kasi it is nadidiscover din yung tinatawag pala na sa times of actually in the times of Jesus Christ hindi siya na talagang na-express kung ano talaga yung time ni Jesus Christ noon pagdating noon. Hindi talaga nila noon na na-discover yung pinaka even Jesus Christ expressing that, pero Jesus Christ has been naging nga siya doon sa time niya, pero it was giving again to true parents. So we are so thankful for that our true parents in the time of the second coming na-express talaga yung pinaka-essence ng predestination. So na-explain talaga sa divine principle ang pinaka-purpose ng human beings, God giving human beings as a portion of responsibilities sa how human beings to return to God and to His bosom. So because of the fall nga, tayo mga tao, napalayo tayo kay God. So we are so lucky because mayroong mga chino si God na kinilala talaga na the time ng Messiah. So it started from Moses, God called Moses, and then to the time of Moses, talagang si Moses talaga nung tayo nag-set siya ng standard. The law, yung law na dinala ni Moses, talagang nag-stand siya when God called him. So talagang Moses stand na talagang i-carry niya yung God's will. So Jesus also, at the time of Jesus, God sending niya na makikarry niya yung mission na ma-save niya yung human beings to return to God's glory. So we are so lucky in this our era, second coming, the time na sa time ng present reality ngayon, the time na sa past Jesus Christ, sa present reality tayo, soon na open yung secret of this predestination, yung talagang pinaka-core na talagang na ano talaga na ito yung pinaka-importance ng predestination. So, we are so lucky sa mga leaders, brothers and sisters, na talagang yung mga leaders talaga nag-stand sila. When God called him, they stand in their position. So, our true parents sending missionaries. So, through that, sa buong mundo na spread yung divine principle in different language na isulat siya at the same time. So we are here so lucky sa mga elders natin na nag-stand to truly fulfill their mission as God's called him. So we are so very successful of this kinds of attending God because of them. So mga leaders natin and brothers and sisters who have sacrificed themselves. So very So sa buhay natin in our life, in my background as a Roman Catholic Church, so it's very difficult actually to understand why human beings committed this sin. Because sometimes if you are a Roman Catholic, you want to express that you want to become good, but why you still committed sin? So, ganun yung buhay ng Roman Catholic Church as your religion. You are seeking the truth. And why something happened with this? Bakit? Something's different na may nagko-contradict sa mind mo at saka sa body mo. But if you are joining in the unification movement or this natin ngayon sa this organization established ni Fathers, a family federation, and then it evolves and it progress and reaching a higher level, kaya nakagawa ng mga different names to reaching a higher standard to relating with God. So we are so very really as a potential person na naging successful tayo because of attending the divine principle. So the more we attend the divine principle and truly living a life of attendance with God and proper talagang attendance or serving God to our tradition, so we can return to God's bosom and glory. So we are so thankful na yung goodness nagpo-progress talaga siya at saka naiiwan na yung nai-eradicate na yung evil sa mundo na ito. So because of the accomplishment of those people nga kinol ni God. So we are so grateful for that. And so sin is not a natural law. It is a violation of the heavenly law. It grieves the heart of God. So ganun. So si God talaga kailangan natin talagang suportahan talaga siya. At the same time to attending our leaders, brothers and sisters nga talagang faithful kay God, so we can bring victory to God and to parents. Brothers and sisters, leaders, thank you so much for this day. Thank you. That's only I can reflect.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Kuya Nicholas. So, Kuya Nicholas was citing God's true parents' ingenuity of discovering the truth, no? And how fortunate we are at the present time. Because we were given this privilege to, part of our portion of responsibility is understanding and knowing God's will and God's heart. So, we are very fortunate because of our true parents. So thank you very much, Kuya Nicholas. Now, down to the next two more people to give reflection. Ate Jingit, please take it away. As to who is going to say the second to the last reflection. Yeah, we have a winner, brothers and sisters. We have here Ate Mary J. Please help me welcome, to give her a big round of applause. Welcome, Ate Mary J, for your reflection.
Welcome.
Good evening po, brothers and sisters. For me po, about dun sa tanong po na, if sin is natural or not. For me, it's not because, kasi pag natural siya, pag yes, Edi sana po, hindi po tayo, I mean, pag gumawa tayo ng kasalanan, wala tayong pake. Okay lang, masaya na ginawa ko yung kasalanan na yun. Or wala yung tinatawag na conscience. Diba po? And then for me, in my reflection sa predestination po, hindi dapat natin naging habit yung sinasabi na example, merong problema sa atin. Hindi dapat natin naging habit yung sinasabi natin na bahala na si God sa akin. Ganun. Wala akong gagawin. Okay, bahala na si God. Isasabahala ko na lang kay God yun. Ganun. So, hindi dapat ganun. Kasi for me, for example, sa sinabi na God's responsibility is 95% and the human responsibility po is only 5%. So, it's just like sa ako as bilang student, nakapag-aral ako kasi it's 95% responsibility ng parents ko or yung sa nagpapaaral sa akin ngayon. It's na binayaran yung school ko. So, my portion of responsibility sa pag-aaral ko is just only 5% lang siya. And which is, yung effort na gagawin ko doon para maipasa ko yung mga quizzes ko, mga project, ganun, it's 100% effort po. At hindi naman po ibig sabihin na pag hindi ko ay, may problema ako sa school. Si God yung sasagot sa quizzes ko, ganun. Si God yung gagawa ng project ko. Hindi ganun yun. So, parang sa atin yun. Responsibility natin yun and effort natin yun. And, ayun, kasi, wala. Yan lang po. Thank you. Wala na pala.
Thank you very much, Ate MJ, for that beautiful
Hello.
example.
May follow-up question ako to.
Ay, para kay Ate MJ, Kuya?
Yeah.
Okay, for Ate MJ daw, may follow-up question si Kuya Erwin.
If I like your point. I want to ask you something. Can you do it alone?
Do it alone po.
Yeah, can you do it without God?
No. Hindi po. Hindi naman po.
Prediction ang nangyayari dyan.
Sa akin hindi po. Parang ang ano po kasi doon effort mo is sayo pa rin yung effort. Pero nandun ka pa, nananalig ka pa rin, magagawa ko to with God's yung guidance ni God, ganon. Yan na.
Thank you.
Thank you po.
I need to clarify.
Very well said, Ate MJ. Thank you so much for that beautiful answer. And yeah, okay na ka dadto, Kuya Herwin? Yeah, okay. So, now down to the last but not the least. To give, actually may nag-PM sa akin na itong Nel G is not a name but a last name. So, I don't know kung Kuya ito or Ate. Ate ba ito or Kuya? Hindi ko alam. So, but we have to give her or him a big round of applause for the last one to give reflection. Brothers and sisters, please help me give a big round of applause, virtual applause, for the last one to give reflection. Ate daw po pala. I'm sorry. Ate Nelgi.
Wala.
Alright. Okay. Sorry. Okay na.
Yeah, hello po. Good evening po. Babae po.
Ay, pasensya po. Di ko... Ano palang full name? Ay, first name?
Nelgy po talaga yung pangalan ko po, pero yun po, hindi ko po alam kung bakit po Nelgy. Yun lang nakakaano.
Okay.
Ayoko maglabas ng sama na loob.
Maganda ka naman, bawing-bawi.
Ay, amen. Ay, joke lang po. Good evening po, brothers and sisters. Siguro po, doon pa ako mag-aano doon sa tanong na, ano ba yan? Na, based on the principle, discussion of predestination, is it natural or not? Yeah. Bakit yeah? Ano po, para sa akin po, na yung sin po is, hindi po siya natural. Kasi kung natural po siya, bakit pa natin ginagawa yung restoration? Like, kung may restoration, ibig sabihin, pag may restoration and then pag natural siya, so restore tayo ng restore. Ganon. So, yung parang, so para sa akin po, hindi po siya natural. Yan, kasi nga, sinabi niya din po, hindi siya natural. Yeah. And then, Tapos, hindi po siya, I mean, ah, nawala ako sa, ano, wait lang. Wait. Sorry po, sorry. Um, Hindi siya natural kasi nga may restoration tayo para mabalik tayo kung saan tayo predestined or yung kung ano po talaga yung purpose natin dito sa mundo. Yes. Thank you so much. Yan lang. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Beautiful Nelji, for that wonderful reflection. Sabi ni Ate Nelji, ano daw? Natural daw. Joke. Natural ang sinning in the secular world after the fall. Okay, so ideally, it's not natural, of course. Ideally, it's not natural, of course. Yun ang ibig sabihin ni Ate
Sabi ni
Jo.
Miss Nel, ano yung inspiration na na-receive niya dun sa Predestination lecture?
Ate Nelji, ano daw yung inspiration na na-receive mo?
Although gusto ko yung sagot niya na kung natural yung scene, restore na lang tayo ng restore. Hindi na dapat tayo nagre-restore. Parang gano'n. Okay.
Inspiration. Ayun. Hala, paano ba?
Lumabas ako kasi mainit.
Ako
Naiinitan
din
ako.
nainitan sa sinasabi ko. Lala. Ayun po. Inspiration about that. Maybe, paano ba? Parang yung willingness po na ma-fulfill po yung 5% po na responsibility po as a human. Yan lang po.
Okay, thank you. Miss Nelji. Siya na ba yung last natin?
Pasensya, Miss Nelji. Kasi naniwala ako, joke lang pala yun. Joke ba yun, Ate Jinky? Akala ko family name yun. Okay, my God. I had been...
Narong basa lang po siguro kayo. Sa atin mo na lang po nag-send kasi.
Di Ate Nelji na lang. Ate Nelji.
Ate Nelji. So, yeah. At this point, I hope, brothers and sisters, na we had been elucidated. We had the issues about predestination has been cleared to us all. And yeah, at this point, maybe we are just very, very bold about it because everyone has known the principle. However, if we be talking to people who don't know the principle, it would be this is my own reflection. I have to be more careful and more precise in citing the examples. Yeah, in the next time that we're going to have this presentation. Anyway, I am very grateful to everyone for their reflection. So maybe this time, at this point, we can. There was a question that I think we need to answer. However, before going to that, maybe our other lecturers, Ate Relina, Kuya Herben, Kuya, whoever would like to add on to further make our participants understand more about predestination. Sino po? Maybe, mayroon po bang magdagdag? Gusto magdagdag about predestination po para mas may mag-grasp po yung ating mga participants in this lecture po.
Ang alam ko lang sa predestination, ang naiintindihan ko lang sa predestination is yung shortcut niya. God predestined us to be good. And yung sinasabing absolute doon na humanity was created as good na based dun sa we are created in the image and likeness of God. When we say image and likeness, even dapat yung in the image and likeness, kasi na created tayo sa likeness. Pag sinabi natin likeness, edi yung good, although it so happened that our character and nature must be developed as we grow. And then, pero as we develop and grow, ang talagang pupuntahan natin is to inherit God's uh character and nature, ganon. But since it was challenged by Satan, and then my humanity was given in kahit na absolute na good tayo as predestined by God, but since we were given the uh, freedom to choose, yun. At ang nangyari, chinus natin yung word ni Satan over word of God, and that have made us fallen into sinfulness, diba? Yun yung nangyari. So that's the reason why na it is man's decision dahil sa decision ng man, siya yung nag-decide na maging sinful. So yun. Kaya nga siya by their own free will, humanity have fallen against the will of God. And then that's the reason why yung unnatural nga yung sinfulness, yung sin. But then in the end, ang dapat natin makikita in the end, palaging mananalo yung the winner will be goodness still, kasi ganun tayo talaga eh. Yung pagiging sinful ng humanity is temporary, yun. And yung pagiging temporary niya is dependent also sa humanity and how well the humanity will really determine into following God's will na. Parang ganon. Absolutely God's will. Yun yung kaya siya naging conditional lahat ng ginagawa natin. Pero sa dulo, ang dulo ng lahat ng to, it's still goodness, peace and happiness as God has willed it. So kaya nga sinasabi palagi na tawag dito, no matter what, kahit hindi pa nangyayari, iniisip na ni God na the goodness will prevail. Kasi yun yung natin eh. Yun yung original yun yung fundamental nature natin eh. We are good. Yun. That's why nga Satan is working so hard para to maintain his sovereignty. Kasi nga ang original talaga natin is to become good, and that is absolute. So, and that is what to me, answering yung question na my inspiration is that talagang in the end magiging pa rin, good pa rin, and that is yung hope na meron si God. That's why never na si God was never, hindi siya tumigil na maniwala na magiging good yung man in the end, na he always give us the chance. And that's the reason why we are always given the chance to be good and to do our portion of responsibility. That's why God is patiently waiting. And how long God is waiting is dependent on humanity. How well do you understand your fundamental nature as predestined by God originally from the beginning? Thank you and good evening.
Thank you very much po, Ate Relina, for that additional input for tonight's lecture. However, this time I think we have to go through could answer the questions that had been asked by one of our participants. Yeah, we have a question here that said, are mutated animals or insects considered as our heavenly parents' creation? That's question number one. And number two, if Elijah was the first, John the Baptist the second, then who is the third? So I would like to ask anyone of us, from the participants on our lectures, to answer this. Whoever wants to answer these questions.
Pero siguro kung may gustong mag-answer sa participant, answer niya muna. And
Okay,
then
from
we
the
answer it.
participants, I would like to know if there are those who would like to answer this question. First question, are mutated animals or insects considered as our heavenly parents' creation? Who wants to volunteer? Yes, Kuya Michael was saying mutation is part of evolution. Uh, would you like to elaborate your answer then, Kuya Michael? Brothers and sisters, we
And,
welcome. Help me welcome Kuya Michael with a big round of applause. Thank you, Kuya Michael.
and good evening po ulit. So, yung answer na ito more on ano to, leaning sa scientific viewpoint. Ayun nga, human beings are ano, based on the scientific standpoint, we are evolved beings. And on that ano, I mean, hindi lang yun na ano, hindi lang tayo yung mga beings na nag-evolve. There are a lot actually based on ano, scientific studies and researches. And considering, taking that into consideration, evolving is part of growth. Kasi if we did not evolve, I mean, we would still be in the Stone Ages. So, in part of ano, God's plan, aside from the restoration, which is the and also the development of the physical world, which is to evolve. Ayun, those mutated plants and those mutated beings, whether it be animals or us human beings, we are also part of that. Ano, we are part of that, and which, although ano, yun nga kasi mutation, it's on a scientific standpoint, it is an unexpected na ano, occurrence. Kaya there might even have been chances na ano na we have developed extra limbs or extra fingers or extra parts, pero that didn't happen because of course there are different ano sa plan ni God. I think there have been multiple scenarios like kunwari, what if there was no land? What if there was no land? What if puro tubig lang tayo? Of course, God would have made us evolve into aquatic beings, yung magkakaroon tayo ng gills. And what if, yun nga, yung temperature dito sa mundo, mas mataas pa, mas active pa yung mga volcanoes, God would have intended for us to develop, to adapt into those situations. So, ayun, mutation, evolution, it's all part of ano, it's all part of our growth and adaptation to the physical world, which ano rin, which can also be correlated to one of God's plans for us human beings, which is to dominate or ano, lord over creation. And so ayun, no matter what evolution, no matter what mutation, no matter what situation we are in, as long as we exist in this physical plane, also spiritual plane, whatever happens there, it is still God's creation. And yeah, that is all.
Thank you very much, Kuya Michael, for that really clear insight of yours about mutation and answering Ate Faye's answer. Yeah, our question. And then, is there anyone who would like to add on? on Kuya Michael's insight about the question. Yeah, any volunteer?
Merong may gustong mag-answer daw? Ganun eh.
Siya
Di
nga
ba
po.
yung sister ni Sir Michael nandito din, ni Michael?
Nasa YouTube yata siya. Ewan ko, hindi ko nakita.
Ano na ba yung name niya?
Faye.
Michael, ano name yung sister mo?
Faye po. Faye yung pangalan niya.
Hindi ba kasama din siya dito pero nasa YouTube nga?
Opo.
I hope I can ask her
yung mutation.
through interaction kasi we cannot immediately ask him if she is satisfied, is there anything that she wants to know more, that's why I would like to wait a minute before we proceed. I hope that we can remind everyone, all participants, to kindly join in the Zoom so that we can have better interaction. Yeah, it would lead us to have better understanding and more connectivity to one another. And just like I said, we are family here, so it is really very great to be natural and express ourselves. That is part of God's creation. That is part of God's predestination to each and everyone. So yeah, we just have to develop it along the way. So this is our opportunity to do so. So I hope we cannot miss.
I remember, yes ate, I remember nga kasi meron din dalawang salido kids, di ba? May dalawang salido din eh. So, nung first meeting natin, may dalawa ding salido eh. Tama ba ako? Pero nasa YT rin sila, hindi ko sila, yun. Parang ang dami kasi natin dati dito, parang 20 plus tayo eh, di ba? So, yun. We wanted to have interaction also with them. Hindi dahil sa sawakan na kami dun sa nandito na ngayon. It's just that we wanted to also hear and interact with them. Yung kasi nga na nga tayo, naka-online na nga tayo eh. Pero walang interaction. Mas maganda pa rin na may interaction tayo. Well, we will appreciate that all of you will join here in the Zoom meeting pa rin. Although may mga siguro kaya gusto niyo dun sa YouTube kasi nga mas low yung kailangan niya na data connection, yung bandwidth natin. Pero as much as possible, we try to be on the Zoom for the interaction. Kasi mas maganda pa rin kasi yung learnings pag there is an interaction. Yung kagad-agad ka ba makakapag-react. Yun.
Thank you,
Iba
Ate
pa rin
Rina.
kasi.
Yeah, totoo
And
po yun.
about mutation, yung mutation, sorry, late na tayo. Past 4 na. So about mutation, I agree with Michael na mutation is rin siya, it's part of the development. Although kahit na sinasabi natin na yung mutation na karamihan, it's part of the development of science. Na minsan parang yung mutation is accident, parang sinasabi na aksidenteng nangyari because of an experiment, parang ganon. Yun yung usual natin na sinasabi. Pero sa totoo lang, mutation and pareho lang naman yan eh. Yung development yan nung creation. Kaya nga may science tayo eh. Yun yung purpose ng science is to further develop. Or ang pinaka sa tingin ko, sa point of view ko, yung GMO, ano ba yung GMO? GMO. Yung genetically, yung mga genetically. Ang purpose initially nun is to develop more for to develop more or for mass production. Kaya tayo ina-alter mo siya natin genetically. Yun yung yung ibang halaman, di ba? Para mag-produce siya more, lumaki siya, parang gano'n. Just like yung guapol, yung yun. Para dumami, mabilis siyang dumami for food security. And is the original purpose is that is for development. At dumami siya for mas, so yun nga, yun yung original nun is development pa rin siya. Development of creation. Therefore, it is a creation from God, dinevelop lang ng man, which is binigyan naman tayo ng ability to develop it para to develop the natural world. Yun yung purpose ng science. Ganun ko siya naintindihan. So, yun yung kaya pa rin siya. It is a creation. Although sinasabi na yung iba aksidente kasi hindi nila kasi 'di ba pag sa scientific experiment it should be controlled yung environment, pero there are things na hindi natin nakokontrol, yun. Pero sometimes yung aksidente na yun, it could be distraction or it could be it is development or a very good hindi lang siguro pa naintindihan natin kung bakit ganun. So, bakit ganun siya? Pero once na naintindihan natin at kaya na nating i-control, kasi dapat sa scientific development, controlled yung environment mo nang sa ganun, kita mo lahat yung ma-observe mo kung ano nangyayari pag ganito yung sitwasyon, ganito yung sitwasyon, o sa different situation. That's the reason why na ganun naman yung scientific development, diba? When we are experimenting. Pero lahat ng to is ang original purpose niyan is to develop the natural world, which is given by which is that ability is given by God to us, especially to human being. Wala naman ibang nagde-develop niyan kundi human being, di ba? Kasi yun, that makes us the Lord of the creation kasi. Yun yung reason nun.
Thank you very much, Ate Relina. Actually, Ate Relina was trying to point out like this part of this ability to develop is our expression or a way of showing or fulfilling our portion of responsibility in response to God's predestination on human being as to become his co-creator and inherit his creative nature, something like that. It's only that maybe the leaning is more on the scientific way. So yeah, that is in a way it's part of our fulfilling a portion of responsibility. However, we should be very aware also that in fulfilling this portion of responsibility, we should not always lean on our own understanding. Rather, katulad ng sinabi ni Ate MJ kanina, na we have to seek guidance and my guidance from the Creator Himself, because without us like seeking that, it might lead to, katulad ng sinabi ni Ate na, that development might lead to destruction instead of developing it from one point to a bigger purpose or for a better development, parang ganon. So yeah, I hope we have some takeaways on that, brothers and sisters. Oh, so it is...
May isang question. May isa
isang
pang
question pala. Sige, it's okay, brothers and sisters, if we extend a little bit more time. We have one question that has to be answered, and I hope there is someone who would like to volunteer to answer this. It says here, if Elijah was the first and that John the Baptist the second, then who is the third? This is the question again from Ate Faye. Anyone who would like to answer?
Para mabilis, sige, meron ba sa participant?
Sa participants.
Would like to answer?
Well, I will count 1, 2, 3, 4. Wala. Then, who is the person that you are referring to, Ate?
Ako.
Ah,
Para mabilis.
okay, para
Answeran ko
mabilis.
na
Sige,
lang.
ate. So, we will welcome Ate
Answeran ko
Tina
na
for
lang.
answer to the
Di
question.
ba si
A big round of
John the
applause.
Baptist is the first, Elijah is the first, second is second is John the Baptist, second Elijah. Yung third in our time is lahat tayo John the Baptist. You are John the Baptist towards our true parents because we need to push to parents of knowing somebody ba purpose ni John the Baptist is to prepare the way of the Lord and to announce di ba Jesus who Jesus Christ is, 'di ba, as the Messiah. So ano ba yung purpose natin, 'di ba? Yun yung gagawin natin. That is our very purpose. All of us, uh, children of God is to should become John the Baptist towards our true parents or towards the Messiah. We need to, since we know them, since we were given the opportunity to know the ibig sabihin, to know the first fruits of our
Salita
true
lang.
parents, then we are given the chance to become
Ha?
the John the Baptist of our true parents, and let them to let know to ano ba yun? To share about the good news that the Messiah have already come on earth, the Lord of the second advent. Yun. And that we are to attend and help him expand the God's kingdom as was the original ideal of creation, di ba? Purpose of creation. So, ganun ko lang siya nakikita. So, the third John the Baptist is us in our time. Each and every one of us.
I would like to add
Hey.
something.
Okay, thank you, Ate Redina, for that answer. We will now welcome Kuya Herwin. Please, we'll give him a big round of applause for additional insight. Welcome, Kuya Herwin.
Um, First question about limitation. Is, are mutated animals or insects considered as our heavenly parents' creation? Let us first know that there are harmful mutations and there are beneficial mutations. If it is harmful for the development, then it will be accepted by God. Kasi kung totoo silang talaga, itong ballpen na to, it is made, ginawa ba ito ni God? Hindi naman, di ba? Gawa ng tao. But it will be accepted by God kasi it is, may nagagamit siya. Oh. In terms of mutation about scientific, if it is will go against the principle, and then it will surely not accepted by God. If it is for the development of beneficiary, then for sure it will be accepted by God. So sabihin natin, if mutated animals or insects considered as heavenly parents' creation, depende kung helps the creation and for human beings. And sa question ng pangalawa, if Elijah, at least this is referring about the talk about the history. The third John the Baptist, if Elijah was first, John the Baptist was the second, then who is the third?
Christianity.
So it is referring about Christianity kasi sila yung second Israel. And then centering upon Christianity, it was supposed to be the Pope. And there are rumors actually that Christianity have the biggest responsibility in order to welcome the Messiah providentially. That's supposed to be God. Medyo nagka-problema. And even the Pope is supposed to be centering upon the Pope. Kasi there were rumors, yung 3 letters na, if you know the story of Fatima, it's quite long. The story of Fatima, 3 letters received from tatlong bata na nakita nila si Mother Mary, story in Fatima in France. Tatlong letter. Binigay sila ng
The Lords.
Mary. And then, sabi ni Mother Mary na bubuksan nila yung dalawang letter, first and second letter. Ang pangatlo, bubuksan nila 1960 pa, 1960, year 1960. Binuksan nila yung first and second letter, ang sinabi lang doon is to become good and to be humble. And pag hindi sila maging good, communism will spread all over the world. Ang pangatlo, hindi pa nila buksan nila 1960. Dumating ang 1960, it was supposed to be the Catholic announced that we're going to open the third letter. But the problem is, I think they opened the third letter pero hindi nila sinabi in public. Talagang sinabi lang nila is it is not hindi naaayon sa oras natin ngayon, sabi nila. Kaya hindi nila sinabi yung third letter. It's up until now, hindi pa rin sinasabi nila. But that is a very important. The Pope, even the Pope, Pope John Paul I. Yeah. Anyway, it's a long story. So anyway, it's the Christianity and the Pope the third. John the Baptist in the present era, and now since if they are failing, then now it is our time. Sinabi ni Terlina, we are John the Baptist this present. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kuya Herman, for that beautiful insight. Actually, yes, it's totoo po. It is a Christianity. However, we know very well in history that even in the stories, among the stories that we have learned the principle that if one person fails to fulfill his portion of responsibility, his mission, then God will not hesitate to abandon it. That's why at the present time, it's already us, just like Ate Reina said. No? So I hope we can all be reminded with that, brothers and sisters. Yeah, it has something to do with the predestination of each and every one. Na if human portion of responsibility, if our supposedly mission we couldn't carry out the supposedly mission that we are going to do at the moment where it is applicable and it is necessary and required, then God would not hesitate to find another person, another John the Baptist. That's why I hope that at the present time we cannot afford no more or we can afford no more to fail, no? I hope we can really understand that very well. So I hope that brothers and sisters, we were able to answer and satisfy those brothers and sisters who are not with us right this moment in the Zoom. And I'm really looking forward to see all of us in the Zoom the next meeting. However, before we have to end this formally, I would like to remind everyone to please do not forget to write your reflections and send it to Ate Monena and as well as for further questions maybe that you have so that we can really be able to entertain just like now when we have the opportunity to answer your questions. And yeah, wala na tayo. Madali po. May sasabihin pa po ba si Kuya Randy? Even if it's already late, but I think we can still extend a little time if Kuya Randy has something to say po. So let's welcome Kuya Randy. Brothers and sisters, andyan po ba si Kuya? Wala po ba? If wala na po, then maybe we have to end this session, brothers and sisters. So I would like to ask Kuya. Okay, so may work na po si Kuya Randy. So we will then ask Kuya Julius Escleto to please lead the closing prayer. Kuya Julius. Hello po, Kuya Julius. Are you there? Wala na po ba? So parang we will then ask therefore who? Okay, sino ba? Mamimili muna ako. Okay. So I would like to ask Ate Jenna to please lead the prayer, the closing prayer. Ay! Before po pala. Sandali lang po, may mali po. Sandali po, Ate Jenna. We will have to have our documentation first. So, mag-picture taking tayo. So, I will ask Ate Monina to kindly do that on my behalf. Ate Monins, can you do that? Or Ate Jinky ba? Joker na to. Kadali sandali lang po.
Wala tayong document
Picture pa na, picture muna tayo. Hindi pwede wala tayong picture kasi itong moment na to, hindi na to babalik. Di ba? So, we have to.
Parang kanta minsan lang.
Yeah. Ate Jinky or Ate Munens, nananawagan po kami dito.
Okay, let's have a picture.
Thank you, Ate Munens. Everybody.
Let's have a small heart, brothers and sisters. Small heart. 1, 2, 3.
Really? Bakit ang hair ko?
Okay, thank you very much. Next one. Ano gani next? Hibaragi Shinang. 1, 2, 3. Last one. Vision 2027. Songni, Songni, Songni. Thank you po.
All right, thank you very much, Ate Monena, for that beautiful picture that we have here. Yeah. So now we'll go back to Ate Jenna, please. Can you do the closing prayer, Ate?
Okay. So, please join me in prayer. Good evening to you, most gracious and loving Heavenly Parents and victorious true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. Our loving Heavenly Parents, first of all, would like to express our deepest gratitude for giving us this wonderful time in which we can gather here together, so family, and learning your words, loving Heavenly Parents. Father, as we close this this lecture, Father, we would like to ask your divine presence, loving Heavenly Parents, to be with us. And also, Father, we pray that you could always put in our hearts whatever we have learned today, that we can fulfill our portion of responsibility, loving Heavenly Parents. Father, we always pray for your guidance on how can we really contribute for the providence, and how can we really help our true mother in this era, loving Heavenly Parents. Father, may all these brothers and sisters could endure the challenges, the struggles that each of us are facing right now, Father. And we pray, Father, that through this we could be able to strengthen our life of faith, and through learning this divine principle of Heavenly Parents, we will truly understand deeply your heart, loving Heavenly Parents, your sorrowful heart, loving Heavenly Parents. Father, thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much, Father, for this wonderful things you've learned this night, loving Heavenly Parents. Thank you so much. And I would like to offer this prayer in behalf of our precious brothers and sisters, in behalf of our central leaders and central figures, in the name of victorious true parents. True.
Jew. So yeah, thank you so much, all our elders, brothers and sisters, our dearest participants. Yeah, I am really looking forward to see everyone the next time. Most especially those who are in the YouTube. We miss you here, being around in the Zoom room. And yeah, thank you so much for this very great night with you. I hope to see you next time, and then Thursday, of course. And have a good night rest. Keep safe, everyone. I love you all. Saranghamnida. I miss Ate May and the Salido siblings. Please be here. We miss you all here. Sino pa bang nandun sa YT? I hope we can have them next time. Thank you. Thank you to our elders, Kuya Herwin, Kuya Julius, Ate Lina. Yeah, Ate Jenna, thank you. Ate Ruchi, Kuya Michael. Yeah. Kita na pa ba? Si Ate Nelgy, sorry. Akala ko lalaki, my goodness. At saka sino pa ba? Si
Tuwan-tuwa talaga ako kay Mr.
Sino kanina pa yung nakita akong iba? Si Kuya Nicolas pala, meron pang isa. Sino ba yun?
Kuya Fritz po.
Ayun, si Kuya Fritz, hindi nakapag-reflection Saan ba yun?
Nawala po,
Nawala po
naalis.
siya. Kanina po meron po siya
Okay.
tapos bigla pong nawala.
So, hopefully next time, Kuya Ray pala, thank you. Hopefully next time we will be all in the Zoom room so we can have a better interaction and we can create more connection to each other because we are one family indeed. We can strengthen our network. Aju?
True.
So, yeah. Good night,
Night po. Good
everyone.
night, everyone.
Please keep safe
Thank
and
you po, Tita Sylvia.
thank you, Jinky. Ate Monens, thank you so much. Of course, Kuya Herwin, everyone. Baka
Good
meron
night
Bakit hindi ko
po.
nakikita yung tsura ni Jinky? Nasaan na si Jinky?
Yung camera ko po kasi may ano po.
Namimiss kita, Jinky, ah.
Hala.
Pag pupunta rin ako ng HQ, hindi kita nakikita.
Hala ka, may utang ka, Ate Jinky.
Hindi po ako masyadong
Oo nga, hindi kita nakikita sa
Next time po magpakita daw po
headquarters.
ako.
Hala, utang mo yan, Kuya Ate Jinky. Utang mo na yan.
Good night po.
Alright, siguro, brothers and sisters, I have to go ahead. Have a very good night.
Bye.
Good night po, everyone.
Ay.
Signing off.
Signing off. Nasaan ba yung signing? Wala. Paano yun? Paano yun?